And I want to thank everybody for coming in this morning. And Jeff, we're just going to kind of shoot you questions as they come up, right? Is that the way
Sure.
we're going to do it this morning? Or you want to
Yeah.
start talking and then we can interrupt you?
Let's start with the questions and see where that goes.
Anybody have a question that they want to ask Jeff? Or should I just be a Badinsky? And well, first of all, should I say I'm Lisa with Recruiting for Growth for those of you who don't know me? And maybe, Jeff, I should let you introduce yourself if anybody doesn't know you.
Sure. Hey, Jeff Koztek, Core Authenticity, mindset coach, speaker, helping people get really clear about what they want, why they want it, what gets in the way, where they want to go, and how to get there. All at coreauthenticity.com.
Excellent. Yay. So
Thanks.
here's my question to you. What made you decide on your book, not only title, but how to set it up and what to focus on? I know that's kind of all encompassing, but from there we can kind of go.
Your book, why?
Yes. Why?
Well, sure. So the book title, Blueprint for Value, that came from the belief that everybody has intrinsic value that does not change ever. Your intrinsic value cannot be lost, stolen, or increased. It's always full all the time. And I often talk about a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being full and 0 being, oh no. And so your intrinsic value is always a 10, but your perception of that can change on a moment-to-moment basis. And when we perceive ourselves as less than a 10, like maybe a 6 or a 2, that's usually how we start acting. And our behavior aligns with that rather than our actual value. So the book is designed to give us 52 habits to keep our perceptions high to match reality. Now that plays into a whole bunch of other things, but that's the short answer. And then as far as the layout, it's divided into 4 chapters: engage, equip, empower, and encourage. And each chapter has 13 habits. So you've got 13 habits, ways to engage, to keep your perception high. You can equip yourself with 13 habits, or if you feel like empowering yourself, there's 13 habits there. Or if you just need some encouragement, there are 13 habits there. And it's not written in chronological order. You can come in at any point. There's no wrong way to read the book at all. So yeah, and why, Lisa, why did I keep the habits so short? That's a great question. I will tell you, I kept the habits short because when you're out there on the front lines getting shot up, you've got virtual school going in one room, you've got office going in another room, you've got bills that are just keep coming.
I've noticed.
And you're going from Zoom to Zoom to Zoom to Zoom. You can feel a little beat up. And in that moment, there are lots of great books out there, like Carol DeWick's book on mindset, and Amy Cuddy on presence, and Simon Sinek, and Seth Godin, like all this great stuff, and Charles Duhigg with the Power of Habit, like all of that. They're great books, but they're really, really thick. And I wanted something that I could use to just do a really quick mindset adjustment while I was out there on the front lines. So that's why I try to keep it really short. And then I encourage people to go read the other books that are really thick because they're great. You know, you can build your foundation there and then come back here for those minor course corrections and adjustments along the way.
Is there a habit that you suggest that we start with, or habits?
Yeah, well, initially I thought we would talk about habit 1, the foundation values, and habit 19, about taking out the trash, and habit 35, doing today's best. But what I keep finding, this one habit keeps popping back up, and it's habit 45, pay once. And initially, the idea behind the pay once habit was that oftentimes if I make a mistake, I tend to beat myself up for that over and over and over and over again, right? I might remember something that I did back in college, and then I beat myself up for it again today, right? I'm paying for one mistake hundreds of times. And that doesn't really serve me. That doesn't move me forward and does not continue to grow me. It just anchors me way, 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 way back there. So the idea was you acknowledge what happened, you own your part in it, you accept the consequences that may have happened or need to happen, and then you move into reconciliation. And that's kind of two parts, right? There's the healing part, and then there's the, hey, let's put up some new processes so that this doesn't happen again, to avoid the repetition of the mistake or the issue. And then you move forward together, not in isolation, so that you address it, and then you move on, but you give it the time that it needs before you do that, right? That makes sense? Maybe? Yes? Okay, yeah, you're not.
Yes.
So that's where it started. But lately, I've been seeing a lot of people, they see an issue or they see a problem and they skip past acknowledging the current state. They skip past owning any responsibility. They skip past accepting consequences and putting, hey, this needs to happen because of this. And they skip past healing hearts and tending to wounds, and then setting up boundaries or new processes so that this doesn't happen again. They skip all of that and they go right to, hey, let's just move on. Or, hey, we're just going to fix that. And so they're like, I'm not even on the camera. They're like way over here, but they skip all of this stuff. And I think that's incredible. Like this, where is it? This part is really important. Like all of that, like getting to the fix part is good, but this is like incredibly necessary. And if we don't deal with that, we're going to keep repeating the mistake, and the fallout, the casualties are going to be significant. And that's huge in the context of business and in all of our relationships. But if we're trying to move our businesses forward and we're not stopping to acknowledge, to own, to accept, and to reconcile, then we're just going to be spinning our wheels. I would love to know what you all think about that, or if you have any questions, because that's really important, in my humble opinion.
I have a question. What's the best way to attack this or to face this part?
What do you, what
The
do you
middle
mean?
part, the part that we often ignore.
The accepting,
this, and so I'm repeating.
like the first 75% of the process.
Yeah.
I think that comes from understanding that you are not what you do. In order to attack that, you have to separate your value and identity from your behavior, recognizing that behavior comes from you. It does not define you. Seeing mistakes for what they are, not who we are. This is why the whole, everything that I talk about builds on intrinsic value, seeing it here versus seeing it in our behavior or our achievements or our circumstances. When we separate that, when we separate our value from this stuff out here, then we can acknowledge what happened and own our mistakes, not taking it on as, oh, I'm a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad person. No, I did something that was not helpful, did not lead to growth, and may have caused some other issues. I can recognize that, and then I can make a change and move forward. Having that foundation and intrinsic value allows us to do that and not be overwhelmed and destroyed.
Kathy indicated behavior comes from you, but it does not define you, and that's powerful.
Yeah, but it's so countercultural right now, right? Because everybody sees behavior and we want to say, well, that's you. There's a book out there that says you are what you do. And I've heard that statement multiple times. And I
Yeah.
want to say, no, it's not. Like, what you do is a learned reaction to stimuli. Like, you learn that. You can unlearn that and continue to move. And just because you unlearn that and do something else doesn't change your intrinsic value at all.
Can you talk a little bit more about intrinsic value? I mean,
I could talk all day about
okay,
intrinsic value.
just a little, not all day.
Well, Maya Angelou said, "You will never," or no, what did she say? She said, "People will not remember what you said or how you said it. They'll remember how you made them feel." Right? That feeling comes from the state of your heart, and that is all about how you're seeing your worth, your value. We're never going to see value in somebody else beyond what we see in ourselves. And we might value what they do, we might value what they have, or we might value what they can bring to the table, or we might even value their networking, who they can connect with us. But to see value in them as a person when they're not performing, it'll never eclipse, it'll never go beyond what we see when we look in the mirror. And so it is vitally important that we see ourselves as a 10 so that we can see other people as a 10 also. If we're not there, if we're down at seeing ourselves as an 8 and we think that there's this gap that we're trying to make up with finding external value in our performance, then we start competing and comparing ourselves with every other person. And then we oftentimes become a massive workaholic. I know for me, when I was looking for my extrinsic value in my performance, I couldn't say no. I said yes to everything. Yes, 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 yes. And I never took vacations and I never took time off, because if I did that, then I would lose my value. But was that correct? No. I just thought at the time that it was all tied to out here. So the consequences was exhaustion. The consequence was I was squirrel, like shiny object all over the place, trying to find more value. And then there was strain on my marriage, and my parenting skills were less than great, but now that I've shifted the foundation and I remind myself of that intrinsic value, everything is rising. It's the rising tide, right? So all of my ships are going up. Do I do it perfect? No, because the perception changes on a moment-to-moment basis, but I can always right the ship with a real quick mindset check, grab one of these habits, and if I jump all the way to the last habit, my favorite habit, habit 52, hashtag wash your brain, I can quickly correct course and get back on track.
So you feel that intrinsic value can change, we can improve.
Intrinsic value stays the same. Our perception of it can change. Does that make sense? They're like two different things.
Okay.
Like the value is always there, whether you're acting like it or not. It does not change this value. The perception of it, how I feel about it, can change. It's like walking down the street and you smell some dog poop. Your feeling changes, right? You're like, oh, this is terrible. Or you wake up in the morning and you have breakfast with the expert scheduled at 7:30, but your internet is not working. What? Your feeling drops. But it doesn't change. It doesn't change you. And so to be able to understand that those are two separate things is vitally important.
So do you think that it's something that we have to concentrate on a daily, hourly, minutely, I just made up that word, basis?
A minutely?
Yes.
I think it depends on what you're going through, your current circumstance, as far as the frequency goes. For me, it's a definite daily. I'm going to start with my coffee, and I'm going to start by hashtag washing my brain, reminding myself who I am as a human being underneath all the roles and labels that I do. Reminding myself what my values are, what my personal vision and mission is, reminding myself that I am a 10, even if I don't feel like that. if I don't start with that foundation, then I usually start the day at a 7, and that's not good for my wife. It's not good for my kids, and it's definitely not good for my business. So I think it's not a box that can be checked. It takes intentionality and consistency. And so it can be one of those things where you say, oh, well, Lisa, this is frou-frou stuff. I don't need to remind myself that I'm valuable. I've got all of this stuff to do, and we get busy with all these distractions and then all these other responsibilities. But if we're not shoring up our core foundation, what we're standing on, then it doesn't matter what's going on out here. We're not going to be able to handle it. You know, we've heard people talk a lot over the last 6 months about pivoting. Now's the time to pivot. Now's the time to make the change. You know, but if you're standing on gravel and or if that's where you're running and now you've got to pivot, you're sliding all over the place. Or if you're on sand, like, we need a solid, firm foundation so that we can pivot and maintain traction so that we can then go off in a new direction. And that comes from standing on the intrinsic value piece. This is why when I speak on leadership or teamwork or communication or using grit or generosity, it all comes from that intrinsic value place. This is why when I coach, whether it's in business or whether it's one-on-one with individuals, it all comes down to that mindset and the value piece, how that plays out.
Kind of a different subject. Well, no, I'll skip that one. Are there, when you, in the morning, let's just say, as you're drinking your coffee,
Right.
do you follow certain habits from your book to get to a 10 when you're starting out as a 7?
For me, well, habit number 1, foundation values, is pivotal, and that's part of my brainwashing every day. Because everybody has values, whether you know them or not. If you're aware of them, they can be incredible tools. If you're not aware of them, they're blind spots that are driving all of your decisions, and you have no idea why something doesn't feel right or something does, or you click over here in this culture but not over in that culture. So making sure that I'm aware of what I value personally and professionally and relationally, that's huge. Reminding myself that today's best may not be the same as yesterday's, and that's okay, is a big one for me. I did a lot of shows in the entertainment. So I come out of an entertainment background, and for a while I would do 200 shows during the summer, going into libraries and fairs and festivals and summer camps and like a whole bunch of stuff, usually filled with families, right? Right before, it was the summer of 2015, my wife and I had 2 back-to-back miscarriages. We'd not had any miscarriages before. She did not have any miscarriages before. And then all of a sudden we had 1, and then just a couple months later, there was number 2. And having already had 2 kids, that was emotionally difficult for me. And my wife is a whole other conversation. But since she's not here, I'm just talking to you about it from my perspective. I was wrecked. I saw what could have happened with the possibilities, and then they were just gone. And I didn't handle that very well. And yet that summer I had to show up and perform in front of pregnant moms and a bunch of newborn babies and nursing moms and little kids and all these families. And so it was in my face a lot, and just reminding myself of the loss that we had just suffered. And yet my clients still expected me to give 100% because that's what they hired. And that makes sense. Like, they were right to expect that. I wasn't all there at the time. And so for me, I relied heavily on my faith, and I reminded myself that I am a 10 and that my value is here, And as long as I show up and I do the best I can, that's how we're going to move forward. And that, yeah, I might not be above and beyond like I'm used to performing. I might be more tired at the end of the day. I might just wrap out 3 or 4 shows and then go home and crash. And that's okay. Versus doing the shows and then coming home and doing some more marketing and doing some more of this and building the business. Being able to offer myself the grace of saying, hey, today's best might not be the same as yesterday's. It might be more, it might be less, it might be the same. Either way, it's okay, because today I'm facing new variables, new circumstances that I did not have to face yesterday, and that's going to affect my outcome. And so to erase this idea that my best has to keep going up like this, right? That's kind of a ridiculous standard or expectation to put on myself, because this only works if all the variables stay the same. And that's just not reality.
Yeah.
So that's huge, because otherwise you go down that road of shame and guilt, and you put all these expectations on yourself and you don't meet those, and then there's more shame and more guilt, and then you're just you can quote that.
Yeah. Well, it's on tape. I mean,
yes.
It's recorded.
Oh, good. We'll just play that back, just that snippet on loop.
Yeah.
On TikTok. Yeah.
Exactly. We have about 6 minutes left because I want to honor everybody's time, but you had indicated you're knowing your values. How do you know if you know your values? And if you don't know your values, how do you know you should? Is that a 6-minute answer?
How do you know your values? And if you don't, how do you know that you should know your values?
Yeah. You had indicated, you know what your values are. Yes. But if I'm just an everyday person walking down the street feeling like garbage, and I need to, explore what do I need to do in order to get out of this garbage mode.
Right.
How do I decide, okay, these are my values, this is what I need to focus on?
So in 6 or in 5 minutes or less,
right?
Here's the answer. I did not find them on my own. I needed help. I needed somebody that did not have the same blind spots that I had. Somebody that could see see my life without the same filters. So I sat down with a coach and we went through a process, and that's how I identified my values. That's what I do as a coach. That's what I do with my clients. That's the first thing that we start with. Always, we have what's called the values conversation, and we talk about that, and it's all clearly outlined. How do you know that you need your values? You need to know. How do you know that you need to know what your values are? Having conversations and listening to this, most people don't talk about that. Our society is very much about doing, and it's very much about networking, and we spend a lot of time on surface stuff. The values are a root cause. So my hope is that with this book and with speaking and with being a part of the John Maxwell team and the values conversation, that we can get the word out and help more people really identify what is most valuable to them, what their values are, so that they can walk that out. I mean, because if you're in a work environment or in a relationship and your values aren't matched up, it just doesn't feel right. Like for me, communication is a high value. So is creativity, and so is fun. I like to have fun. I don't think that business and fun have to be separate. And not everybody shares my value of fun. So we will butt heads. And so understanding that my value for fun is high, then I look for people that also like to have fun. And for the people that don't, we don't work together, right? Well, because it's not going to be fun. They're not going to have a good time, and I'm not going to have a good time. You know, we can make adjustments if we are on the same team. We're both employees, hypothetically, and we have different values. Understanding what I value and understanding what you value, it's like those DISC assessments or the any of the personality assessments. Knowing what you value can help me speak to you in a language that you can hear and help move the ball forward. Sorry, that was longer than 5 minutes.
No, it wasn't. I'm reading this has been very valuable. This is my wake up time. So sorry not engaged with questions. I'll buy the book as soon as possible. Understanding our value is paramount.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know, if anybody wants to do, if you're asking yourself, how do I know what my values are? I would be happy to take you through the values conversation for free. It just takes about an hour of your time. And I would love to just give that away, because that's the starting point. So if that's something that you are interested in, I'll just put my email in the chat. And
that'd be terrific.
Let's see, right? Isn't that how I spell my stuff? Yeah, it's early in the morning. Okay, so if you email jeff@coreauthenticity.com, just put in the subject, you know, breakfast with the expert or values, and then we can set something up. So I think that's really important. So along with the values, we will also help you discover and identify who you are as a human being, what your personal vision and mission is, and we'll have all the core values. And we'll do that in an hour.
Whoa.
I know.
One more real quick. Do you know the link off the top of your head to buy your book? Or can you tell us?
You can buy the book at blueprintforvalue.com. It's the title. I probably should put that in the chat too.
That might be good. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Let me pull that back up. Where did it go? Hey. Yeah.
Super.
Thanks.
Jeff, I really appreciate you're doing this, and hopefully you'll come back as our expert another time, and we can talk even more about your book. Do you have another book in the works?
Yeah, Blueprint. So this is how to discover and strengthen your personal worth. Blueprint for Value Volume 2 will come out later this year, and that's how we reveal and strengthen value in others, specifically in teams. And then on October 1st, I've written an essay for an anthology called Bright Spots. It's being published by Kathy Davis.
Yes.
Yeah, and my essay is called The Pit. Like it's about, you know, when you feel like you're suffering and you're dealing with pain and struggling, oftentimes we feel overwhelmed and alone and in over our heads like we're in a pit. And so I talk about 6 reactions that keep us outside the pit and disengaged and safe, and then 1 response that allows us to enter into the pit to offer connection and safety and allow a place for healing to begin so that we can be a bright spot with somebody else. So Bright Spots is coming out October 1st, and the first, I think it's first 24, 48 hours, the ebook is on sale for $1.
Wow.
I know.
How can we pass it up?
Right? So if you go to my website, coreauthenticity.com, or the Blueprint for Value links to that, there should be, I should have a link up there where you can buy the book.
Well, we may have to have you back a couple of times then.
Well, talking to you is a lot of fun. I will come back as many times as you'll have me.
All right. Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks for stopping by.
Bye.